Okay. Yes, thank you very much. Okay. I declare the meeting open and welcome you to this month's meeting of Council. The recording of this Council meeting will be available to the public on Council's website for a minimum period of 6 months. In accordance with Council policy, I will now ask Council staff to confirm that the recording has commenced.
Yes, it has, ma'am.
Lovely, thank you. I would first like to acknowledge that we meet today on the land of the Malacca people, the traditional custodians of this land. Our Aboriginal friends have been here on this land for over 40,000 years. They've cared for country, for land and for our waterways. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging and their customs. Tonight we have in attendance at the meeting, we have Deputy Mayor Sally Doyle, we have Councillor Newell, Councillor Gibson, we have Councillor Clark, Councillor O'May, and also we have on the phone tonight, we have Councillor Campbell. I would like to introduce our General Manager, Jason Brown, and ask Jason if he could actually introduce the staff that are here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we have our Director of Legal and Governance Services here, Matthew Grimsey, our Director of Corporate Services, David Spinks, Director of Community Services, Rebecca Stevenson, Acting Director Environment and Development Services and Director of Infrastructure Services, Lachlan Krantz, our Manager Environment and Development, Michael Bartlett, which will be joining for the planning only, Executive Assistant, Sandy Rustle, and ITC Officer, Michael Glazer.
Thank you very much. And apologies, so item 2 on the agenda, we have an apology from Councillors Lovell and Prince this evening. There are no leave of absence and there is no one absent. We go on to item 3 of the agenda, declarations of interest. Councillors, is there any item on the agenda this evening that you would like to declare an interest?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. Excuse me, Sandy, is there an opportunity for a pen to be brought here, please? A spare pen, please. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tal.
Christine, she said 2, didn't she? Did Christine speak this there? Did I hear her?
No, I think it's all right.
Okay.
Yeah. So we go on to item 4, confirmation of minutes. Do I... Councillor Campbell? Councillor Campbell?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I think, are you able to put your phone on hold in between the times that you wish to speak?
You mean on mute?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, it is on mute, ma'am.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you. So do I have a councillor to move the minutes for the ordinary meeting of Council 29 September? Yes, Councillor O'May. A seconder, that's Councillor Clark. Thank you. Do any councillors wish to report any changes? No? All right. I'll put the motion then. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And Councillor Campbell, how are you? Have you got your hand in the air?
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
All right, lovely. Thank you. That's all councillors present and the motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5, there are no legislative items. Item 6, there are no urgent matters. Item 7, are there any announcements from councillors this evening?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Councillor Doyle.
I would like to make a request for our infrastructure department to lobby state government to put some more time and effort into our roading network. Drainage, there's a lot of drains that are overflowing and the drop off on the sides of the roads is just not standard. And with the winds that we've had trees blow over and they're still laying in the drain. They've been there a while because they're actually now a fire hazard. So I'd really like that to become an issue, a priority if we may, please.
Sure. Just through to the General Manager and through to the Director of Infrastructure, if I may. Can we just have a response, please, Lachlan? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. Councillor Doyle, thank you. We absolutely will pass that on as part of our ongoing communication with Department of State Growth anyway. I've observed drainage and tree issues myself. They're not the only ones down in this road network that have similar issues. We've got it ourselves. But yeah, it's part of that ongoing dialogue with them. Specifically, we have previously had an engagement officer from them that came and had regular meetings, and that's dropped away in the last 18 months. We've requested that come back, and I think that's the key point that we really need to re-establish.
Okay. Is that happy?
Yep,
Yep.
I am.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I do have another one.
Yes.
Is that
no?
okay?
Fire away.
Okay. With COVID, it's created a lot of issues, as we know. And the masks that we had to wear, which I actually feel quite proud of Tasmania because they have done the right thing. But I think that I've been made aware of a gentleman that has post-traumatic stress disorder that couldn't get a certificate not to wear his mask from a doctor in the Huan Valley. And I just feel that we need to be mindful. If someone's not wearing a mask, there's probably a reason. Or we need to also watch out for the people that are wearing them that are maybe under stress. Because they are, to some people, very, So that was all. I just want to make a note that we need to be kinder and hopefully, we don't have to wear them again soon.
Raising awareness.
Yes,
Public awareness. Thank you. Are there any other announcements? Yes, Councillor May.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to make an announcement of my sincere apology for missing a announcement last meeting, which I had very much intended to table. And that is very big congratulations to the Signet Football Club for winning the grand final in the Huan Valley. For 2 years in a row, we've had two clubs out of the Huan Valley play one another in the grand final. Last year, the Huonville Lions won. This year, the Power won from Signet. And not only did they win with the seniors, but their underage won, and the girls, I think, came second from my memory to university. I'd just like to suggest that out of playing clubs from Hobart, Lindisfarne, New Norfolk, and various other clubs that used to be very much of a greater stature in their ability and financial status, to see two clubs from the Huan Valley to be on top of the league, and also to see Thor Boscott win the William Leach medal was an absolute credit to him. And I feel very much embarrassed of not making this announcement last meeting. I did have it tabled on paper to do, but it was an oversight. So anyway, just a big congratulations to the Huan Valley, and both clubs got together the day after for some celebrations, and I just think it's an amazing achievement, sporting achievement for us all.
Thank you, Councillor May. Any other announcements? Right. Councillor Campbell, do you have any announcements?
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, I do have a couple of announcements. In regards to COVID update, so many people would be aware that we are trying to get to the 90% vaccination rate in this state, which is going to be incredibly important for us to try and achieve. Pfizer vaccinations are available for people aged 12 and over. Moderna and Astra are available at your local pharmacy, at the Signet Pharmacy, at Geeveston Pharmacy and Huonville Pharmacy. Anyone aged 12 and over can get vaccinated at a GP, pharmacy or state-run community clinic. Astra and Pfizer are available at the Signet Family Practice, the Huan Medical at Signet and the Huan Doctors Surgery. And also at Dover. You don't need a booking to get vaccinated at a state-run community clinic. You can walk in and get vaccinated without an appointment but they do suggest that you undertake a booking so that you aren't waiting unnecessarily. Book an appointment at a local GP or pharmacy by contacting them direct, please. And remember, vaccination is the best way to protect yourself, your family and your community. And so, yeah, let's work together to try and get to that 90% vaccination rate. Also, we're just about on the 1st of November, we'll be starting the Bushfire Preparedness Community Awareness Campaign. So the Huon Valley Council campaign will be similar to last year's, with the addition of short videos of local people talking of their experience from the River Road fires. The aim of the campaign is to complement and support the Tasmanian Fire Service messaging. And this campaign starts in the month of November and will conclude in April 2022. The theme for November is Prepare Your Bushfire Survival Plan, Plan to Leave or Plan to Stay. November covers how are you preparing? Do you have your do your 5-minute bushfire plan now? Bushfire, why risk it? So preparation again. Your household family, your pets, important to practice in the event that you do need to leave, and emergency kits. Thank you very much to our emergency response team that are going to be working on that every month with messaging the community. Councillor training update, expression of interest process. An expression of interest for councillor training which was identified in the Edge Legal Report and further supported by the Tasmanian Audit Office has been forwarded to providers. The providers of the training, who will also be responsible for the development of documentation for the council, were recommended by the Local Government Association of Tasmania, and also those recommended were received and supported from the Division of Local Government. The expression of interest is closing on the 1st of November 2021. When we have more information, we will let the community know. And just lastly, I wish to promote the Makers and Artists Long Weekend. As many of you know, the economy for our arts industry as well as our tourism industry has been knocked around somewhat since 2019. So this is a perfect opportunity to get out and support and promote yourselves. This significant event is occurring in the Huon Valley on the 5th, the 6th and the 7th of November, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily. The Tasmanian Artists and Makers of the Huon Art Away Trail is an exciting long weekend. It will feature 20 local artists and makers, and they've opened up their own studios for people to visit them in person. And you can collect a hard copy of the map and sample those supportive businesses such as Kate Hill Winery and Willie Smith's by picking up a map there, but also supporting those venues and others in the Huon Valley area, please. Look out for the snappy red art and away signs that will be located on the streets as you travel around. And for more information, including a map, please visit tamohuonvalley.wixsite.com. And we wish them all the very, very much success. Now we move on to Section 8, which is public participation, public question time. And we have an answer to a previous question taken on notice for Dr. Liz Smith. And the question is, A, what was the budget allocation for the General Manager's recruitment process? And the response is the Council made a budget allocation of $50,000 for costs associated with the recruitment of the new General Manager. Item B, how was the advertising for an employment agency done? Response, Council sought external advice on the most appropriate way to identify and appoint a recruitment agent to assist in the process. As a result, a limited EOI process was initiated, with 4 firms known to provide these types of services to local government in Tasmania requested to provide a proposal. The next question, when will the amount of the payment to Red Giant be made public? And the response is, and I'll need to refer to another response because we had a question here. The amount relating to Red Giant will be taken on notice subject to a review of the contract terms and finalisation of payments. The questions on notice I've got here, I've got a few today. And we have a question from Mr. Jeffrey Swan of Lonavale. I refer to the public question from Dr. Liz Smith, taken on notice. And there's only one part that repeats here, really. Question 1. Under what provisions of the Local Government Act 1993 does Council refer to when refusing to advise we the ratepayers on what are the total costs of engaging Red Giant in the GM recruitment process? And then our response is Council does not refer to any provision of the Local Government Act 1993. Any consideration would be considering the principles under the Right to Information Act 2009. Question 2. On the assumption there is no such provision, will Council now advise what are the respective spends of public money paid out to Red Giant, Edge Legal and Simmons Wolfhagen and any other expenditure in this recruitment process? And the response is the amount paid out to Edge Legal is $18,293, GST included. The amount paid out to Simmons Wolfhagen is $7,273.20, GST included. And just reiterating that last comment, the amount relating to Red Giant will be taken on notice subject to a review of the contract terms and finalisation of the payment. Thank you. The next question is from Irene Gill of Lonavale. In the last 10 days, my husband politely requested Mayor Enders to instigate town hall meetings so as to allow members and our community to ask questions of the Mayor, fellow councillors, Mr Brown and the recruitment consultant, Miss Inches from Red Giant, about the now confirmed flawed GM recruitment process. And the Mayor's response was, your email has been received and read. Council continues to work with the local government authorities and Council will determine milestone communications. And question 1. Will you please explain, Mayor, what is your understanding of a communication milestone and why have you determined that the most important issue facing our Council is the flawed recruitment of a conflicted Jason Brown? Response. A communication milestone would be when the Council is in a position to provide information to the public. For example, announcement about the Edge Legal report, announcement about the Tasmanian Audit Office review, announcement about the Director of Local Government, if there was correspondence, announcement about correspondence from the Minister of Local Government, and the training provider appointed by the Council. That's what I would consider as milestone communications. Question 2. Regardless of your definition of milestone, our community is outraged at every aspect of this process. Please explain what is preventing you, Mayor, to hold a town hall meeting as soon as it is COVID safe to do so. And my response is, we are aware that there is a campaign to sign a petition to hold a town hall meeting. The results from the petition will give a strong indication to the Council in relation to holding of that public meeting. Thank you. The next set of questions is from Archie Donnelly of Cygnet. In regard to the selection process of the new General Manager, Mr Whitehead, the Auditor-General, wrote that the inadequate management of the conflict of interest resulted in a flawed recruitment process. The potential for bias and unfair treatment of applicants was significant throughout the process. The process also undermined the public confidence required in an appointment as significant as the General Manager of Council. Question 1. When the Council learned that 71 candidates had been excluded from the selection process, why did the Council believe this exclusion was fair and unbiased for those candidates? And my response is, as Council has reported previously, included at its meeting of 29 September 2021, the independent review into the recruitment process has made it clear to the Council what actions we should have taken. Council accepts that it needs to learn from its mistakes and will adopt a best practice approach for managing conflict of interest in the future. As mentioned in announcements, the Council tonight, the Council will be fulfilling its commitment to undertake training and will acquire documentation to support the findings and the recommendations that have been made. Question 2. Does the Council believe that the way they handle the selection process has undermined the public confidence in the Council? And my response is, as you are aware, the Council and I, in the role of the Mayor, have apologised on several occasions to the public in different forms of media. Thank you. We now go on to a question from Shane Johnson of Franklin. And the question is, will Council call on the Tasmanian Government in relation to the provision of ambulance services in the Huan to cease the practice of Huonville ambulance standbys in Kingston, have ambulance call-out times for rural areas recorded and published, have agreed standards, KPIs for ambulance call-out times, and ensure the system is resourced appropriately so that the KPIs are being met, and facilitate in appropriate areas the creation of community emergency response teams. And our response to Mr Johnson is Council's community services area has done quite a lot of liaison work with Ambulance Tasmania, and they attended a councillor workshop in late July. We note the work that Mr Johnson has done and his undertaking with the Upper House, and Council will take this question on notice and provide a written response at next month's meeting following further consideration of the appropriate course of action Council takes. So, thank you. We then go to another question on without notice, and that's from John Dimment of Signet. Question is, at the last council meeting, Councillor O'May drew attention to the poor state of many roads in the Huon Valley. The council agreed to take a group tour to look at this. Did this happen? And what was the outcome and plan to correct the problem? Our response is that the group tour hasn't yet occurred. However, individual councillors have visited roads and works underway accompanied by the Director of Infrastructure Services. Infrastructure Services are currently working to present a sustainable plan for maintaining the roads to appropriate service levels. A tour for councils will be done as part of this, and I will be asking during general reports for the Director to speak a bit more on the roads when that time comes. Dr Smith, did you wish to read your question without notice that I have in front of me regarding the fraud control and corruption prevention policy? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I sent it in earlier in hopes that there might be some more information forthcoming. The responses to my question in the August 25th Council meeting did not answer the question asked. In response to my question at the August Council meeting, the Acting General Manager advised that my question referred to a section of the Act, Section 55, and therefore only pecuniary interest for General Managers and employees. He went on to advise that whether that extends to firms engaged by Council to provide a service is something that cannot be responded to at this stage. However, it is my view the Act particularly relates to employees and General Manager. At no stage would the recruitment firm that you refer to be classed as an employee of the Council. However, in reading the Fraud Control and Corruption Prevention Policy 2015, the definition of employee makes it very clear that an employee is, in inverted commas, any person who is employed by the Council, but also includes any contractors, volunteers and consultants undertaking work for or on behalf of the Council. I was also told in August that no further information could be provided because the recruitment process was not complete. The process has now been finalised, and the report provided by the Auditor General raised many issues and described the process as flawed, partly due to the delayed notification of her conflict of interest by consultant Red Giant 40 days after she was aware of it and after she had eliminated 71 of the 85 applicants, and the management of this by council was inadequate. The process followed by the General Manager Recruitment Panel and the Council is a matter of great concern to community members due to the potential for community benefit to the consultant, a contractor to the Council, and her close associate, especially given the policy statement, Section 3, in the Fraud, Control and Corruption Prevention Policy, which is in the attachments to the agenda, that councillors will not tolerate fraudulent or corrupt conduct from its own employees, contractors, councillors or others working for council. So I have two questions. The first is, was the consultant, Red Giant, engaged by the council for the general manager recruitment process an employee of the council? And the second question is, has the council now fully investigated the conflict of interest as required by Section 5.4 of the Fraud and Corruption Prevention Policy 2015 and conducted that investigation pursuant to the investigation and reporting procedure outlined in the Public Interest Disclosures Act 2002, and if not completed, at what stage is that investigation?
Do you have a further question after this one, Dr. Smith? Or
No,
is this that's your only question
that's
for
my
tonight?
lot.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. All right, I'll respond now then in that case. Thank you. So I may need to go through the General Manager to the Director of Governance, but in response to your first question, which was the consultant Red Giant engaged by the Council for the General Manager recruitment process an employee of the Council? And the response is no. Question 2, which I don't know if I need to go through that again, but the response to question 2 is the policy is an internal facing document. It would be wholly inappropriate for staff to conduct an investigation or undertake an internal review process into this matter based on that first answer. The authority for local government is the Minister for Local Government and Director of Local Government, who are aware of the matter, which the public do know. And the matter has also been subject to external review through the independent legal advice and a report from the Office of the Auditor General, which the public are already aware. So if you look at that answer, if you take that first part, that the authority for local government is the Minister for Local Government and the Director of Local Government, and that they are aware of this, and of course the matter still went to Parliament, and should there be an action required, the Council will definitely be made notified of that. There's a bit more in my response than what's actually there in print, but I just thought I wanted to explain that. Thank you very much, Dr. Smith.
Thank you.
Right. We now have questions from the gallery, it appears. Oh no, I've got one more here, sorry, my apologies. Question, that's a councillor question about notice, so that's okay, I'll jump back. So we'll go straight to the gallery now for questions. So I'll just do a little bit of a preamble, if I may. For those of you that might not be as familiar, if you have a question, you need to direct it to the chair, which is me, and I'll ask you to come forward to the microphone. If you could identify yourself by name, that's for the people that are watching as well, and also the area and where you live, please. To make things fair and equitable, we have a limit of 2 questions per person. Questions are asked. I will answer the question, but if I'm unable to, I'll refer to the General Manager or a Director, or it might be a councillor that you ask for a response from. They have an opportunity to either agree to respond or not to, or they might wish to take it on notice and respond to you later. Every attempt will be made to provide an answer to your question. There will be no debate on questions. Thank you. and the council cannot make a decision on issues that arise from public question time. In addition, council will not accept or answer any questions that do not relate to the activities of the council, that they relate to any matter which would normally be discussed in the closed section of the council, and that's pursuant to Regulations 15 of the Local Government Act, Meeting Procedures, Regulations 2015, and in the opinion of the chairperson, that's me, contains an insult, makes a personal reflection on a councillor or an employee of council, or imputes an improper motive on a councillor, employee of council. Right, so who would like to come forward first? Yes, would you like to come forward? I know it's Tim, but you still need to announce who you are. Thank you. And thank you for providing this before the meeting.
I'm Tim Sanderson. I live in Port Huon. I count every councillor in this room either a friend or neighbour or acquaintance with whom I might share a coffee or conversation any day of the week. And I have the highest respect for each of you. 3 years ago, we each made a public commitment on the hustings during the run-up to the council election to be councillors of integrity, transparency and accountability. You were elected, I was not. After your recent recruitment process for a general manager, Mayor, you submitted a statutory declaration to the Director General of Local Government stating, the council recruitment process followed the professional advice and decisions of the council, and in this instance was conducted professionally and with the necessary integrity to allow the council to make an appropriate determination on the matter. The Auditor General in his report tabled in Tasmania's Parliament said otherwise. The inadequate management of the conflict of interest resulted in a flawed recruitment process, as the potential for bias and unfair treatment of applicants was significant throughout the process. In addition, the process undermines the public confidence required in an appointment as significant as the General Manager of Council. And the Mayor has subsequently stated that there were no breaches of the Council's Code of Conduct, Local Government Act or the Huon Valley Governance Framework. Given the obvious tensions in the areas of integrity, transparency and accountability that remain unresolved between the statutory declaration and the Auditor General's report, I ask and I trust that each of you are capable of answering and resolving the following. How are you going to restore confidence in the Council's Code of Conduct and the Huon Valley Governance Framework, both of which should have breached on the basis of potential for bias, as per the Auditor General's remarks, and yet were not? And so what are you prepared to do to restore the confidence of our community in that shared promise of integrity, transparency and accountability? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Tim. I will first of all respond to the best that I can on that. At the time of the statutory declaration, in my opinion, at the time, the information I gave was correct, in my opinion, at the time. Of course, the findings of the Edge Legal report, first of all, identified that you're correct by saying that there were no breaches of the Code of Conduct, no breaches of the Act, and no breaches of the Council's own governance framework. However, the identification of conflict of interest was below the expectations, the standard expectations. As I have responded in tonight's questions on notice, referring to me immediately upon receiving that report and that advice, I did show accountability to the public. I did show remorse for my error that I made in that regard. And I have been diligently working to get an expression of interest up so that we can undertake the training that's required. Tonight we reported on what some of the costs were related to that, if you want to talk about transparency. that is the way that I will continue to rebuild confidence with those that that isn't required. And that is probably the best response that I can give you at this point, Tim, is that as I have done leading into this particular moment in time of this council, I have had very good relationships with businesses and community members. I still have good relationships with many businesses and community members, but I don't take that lightly, and I don't sit on my hands and accept that that is all that is necessary. And so I will continue to reconnect and do my best to continue to provide information from this process so that that information is made available to the public wherever possible, without putting the council into a situation where we might end up in court, if you understand what I'm saying. So ever possible, but with protecting the council in regards to any litigation. Yeah, thank you. So this question was directed to all councillors. You have a. That's my understanding. Is that correct? So as I outlined, you have an opportunity to respond to Mr. Sanderson's question this evening, or you can take it on notice and respond to Mr. Sanderson later if you wish. But that's just the opportunity. So not to put anybody on the spot, you have an opportunity to do a written response to Mr. Sanderson if you wish to respond. All right. Are there any councillors that wish to respond at this point in time? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sanderson. All right. Is there any other questions from the floor? Yes, thank you. If you'd like to come forward, Andy.
Andy Waterhouse, Mayor Ranelagh. My question, the mountain bike trail proposal, as Dover was identified as the preferred destination for the development of the regional mountain bike park. What progress has been made at this stage for that development? And Mayor Enders, if I may ask, if through the chair, that councillors here present tonight, it'd be much appreciated if they would comment as well.
Okay. Well, if it's necessary, because I could give an update about where the project is at. And then are you looking for them just to say whether they support the project?
Well, their comment, their feedback, the development, their thoughts on the development.
Oh, okay. All
for
right.
or against, is there similar,
Okay.
just
all right. All right. So I'll just...
communication, that's all feedback.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, you'd like to know where it's at.
Yes.
And then you wanted, if there was a councillor that wanted to speak to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify. Okay. So the project itself had full council approval to support it going on the state government and the federal government election commitments. So the full council had already approved. So they support it, if you know what I mean, because it was a support. And there's been a feasibility study that has been done already. So, and that was funded through grant money. But what we learnt through the process with engaging providers or in that who would operators, is that it would be better if there was a business plan that accompanied that feasibility study. And I might ask a director, the appropriate director, to jump in if appropriate before we go over to the councillors to confirm that. It remains on the federal government election commitments as we want funding for a business plan. And which director, through the general manager, I'll go to the director of governance to expand on that particular part.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We've had about 2 or 3 shots at looking for grant funding in relation to development of a business plan, which can actually set out what the track looks like, the business nature, the landholders that need to be dealt with, particularly forestry and potentially some other private individuals. The other bit of work that needs to be done is the supporting destination, so what other activities and opportunities there are for the Dover area. We haven't been able to progress it past going for grant applications, but as the Mayor said, it is included in the priority projects for the election, so we're hopeful that we can get some funding to actually progress that.
Thank you.
Is there any councillors that would like to make any comment on that particular project? Yes, Councillor May, thank you.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, I would like to make a comment. I'd like to congratulate Mr Waterhouse for bringing this topic up after seeing the progress that's made in Derby and the achievement that's happened up there and the contribution to their community and their general tourism attraction. If we can in any way replicate that, and the more it can be brought to the public's attention that we are working on it and progressing it, as our director's just underlined, and with some public consultation with the people from Dover. I think it's great that you've brought this subject up, and the more it can be politicised, the better. Yep. As we need projects like this in the Huan Valley, along with the project from Ida Bay that was proposed, the more tourism the better. So I congratulate you for saving. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you for your question. Oh, sorry, yes, you'd like to respond? Yes, certainly.
Yeah, I think I go along with what Councillor O'May said, Andy. I don't know. I think we might struggle to get it up. Personally, now that Councillor Gibson's motion last month rejected the Ida Bay tourist development, I think that it might make it hard to attract the funding.
Councillor Newell, that was a council decision. Sorry, just to confirm.
Well, it wasn't my decision,
yeah,
Mayor, and I won't support it ever.
But the council made a decision.
I'm just saying, Andy, my opinion. I'm all for any development down there. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yes, Councillor Doyle.
I think the whole way through, Andy, that our thoughts have always been for Ida Bay. I mean, we've been looking, personally, we've been doing work for them for a long, long time, and I do feel sorry for the people that are no longer there, that have spent all their life and all their savings into something that, you know, that isn't there. So please don't feel, you know, that that in this council decision that was made by us that we support.
Sorry, is this? You're referring to the question was asked about the Dover bike.
Yeah, I know. But if we could just have other things, how do you get the other? Right. So if you have the Ida Bay, you've got something to get your walk to go to. If you've got something else somewhere else, you've got that to go to. So I think that the more things we have, the better we will be, and we might be able to encourage the walks. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Councillor.
Only one response, Councillor O'May. Yes.
Well, as you know, Andy, I'm a strong supporter of tracks and trails in the valley. I would like to see the north of the state has gone mountain bike crazy, and you've got to be a little bit careful about whether or not that's going to continue to be able to grow. Yeah. I would like to differentiate a little bit in the Huon Valley and look more at cycle touring. If you look closely at the feasibility study, it identified that it was a borderline world-class destination. So I'm a mountain biker myself, and I know that it's a very competitive market. So you could end up, you know, putting all your eggs into that basket and not necessarily get the results you want. But I mean, it is about funding, and we're chasing funding for for it, so we'll see how that goes. And I'm looking forward to Transformer finding a site as they intend to do, and that going ahead as well.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. If you wish to have a follow-up discussion with Andy afterwards, that's fine. This is during public question time, just once each to respond to this question, if that's okay. Councillor Clark, do you have any? No. Councillor Campbell, would you like to respond to Andy's question?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to say, yes, that we are very supportive of any opportunities for the Huon Valley. It's very important that we continue to lobby and support all forms of business, and just thank you, Andy, for asking the question and keeping us on track with what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if anybody wishes to follow up, have a discussion with Andy about that particular matter, I'm sure we'll be very open to it. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Mayor. Thank you, Councillors. Thank you, Legal
you.
Governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, would you like to come forward? Thank you.
Pat Singh from Leamington, asking a question on behalf of the Huon Valley Residents and Ratepayers Association. We note again that the Huon Valley Council has cash reserves of nearly $14 million, which is currently losing value in the bank due to the historically low interest rates and rising inflation. At the last Huon Valley Council AGM, we proposed that a report should be prepared that identifies how Council's significant cash reserves might best be used for the long-term benefit of the Huon Valley community. It was passed unanimously. The report presented to Council in response to the motion stated that any consideration of the utilisation of cash balances is premature, and it is not appropriate at this time to prepare an additional report as requested by the AGM motion, and the request should be considered as part of the new strategy and plan. And it was resolved by Council that a new strategy and plan be developed for presentation to Council for the 22-23 financial year. Now, to be in line with the reserves of most other Tasmanian councils, these reserves could be reduced by 50%. So Huon Valley Council could spend about $7 million for the benefit of the community. So our question is, what progress has been made towards planning to reduce this imbalance, and what level of community consultation does Council intend to conduct when making these decisions?
Okay, thank you. Just writing those questions down. So, just through you, General Manager, perhaps some of that information could be responded to at this point by the Director of Corporate Services, and where we are unable to respond, if we could come back with certain information. Thank you very much.
Mayor, more than happy to respond to that question. So everything that's been read out is correct. So we gave a commitment that we would develop a new financial plan and strategy, which would be presented for adoption as part of the adoption of next year's budget. So that's still on track. That's the plan still. Just in relation, though, to the reserves themselves, my opinion is that it's still premature for us to be undertaking any consideration of what we should be spending those reserves on. Councils would be aware at workshops earlier this year that I did flag up that it was my view that we could free up some of those cash reserves, and they didn't need to stay sitting in the bank. But my opinion is that there's still quite a bit of work to be done around identifying all of the possible projects that those reserves could be spent on, costing those up, prioritising them, etc. I think that's going to be quite a bit of work to do. So it remains my opinion at the moment that consideration of what those funds should be spent on is still premature.
Thank you. Well, just a question then, just again, if I may, to the Director of Governance. So the budget planning period starts in December?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah. And so in relation to what was agreed to, that will form part of the budget process moving forward, the considerations of all those things.
Yeah, so again, just referring to the workshops I've held in the past, you know my view that the long-term financial plan should be updated and re-adopted every year, which hasn't been the case in the past. So it is my intent that as part of the adoption of this year's budget, the long-term financial plan, the new one, will be adopted as part of that. Ordinarily, the consideration of what those reserves could be spent on would be part of that, but I suspect we're not going to have all of that work done, which I've referred to, by that time. But that's my opinion at the moment anyway.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
So through you, Mayor, I was actually asking what level of community consultation does Council intend to conduct? There may be some good ideas out in the community.
For sure.
Sure. Is that in part of the long-term financial plan, the engagement component?
Mayor, typically development of a long-term financial plan isn't something you would sort of go to the community on. We have a number of ways and means and sources already of potential projects. So we have lists available already. We have our stormwater management plan. We have a variety of management plans for various facilities and precincts, master plans, etc. We have our priority projects list. So there's no shortage of potential projects. So I don't think we're going to be scratching for ideas as to what those reserves can be spent on. I can say quite safely now that the sum total of all of those ideas is going to substantially exceed any reserves we can free up.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions from the gallery? Thank you very much for your questions, and that completes public question time. We now go on to item 8.2, and there are no deputation addresses to Council. Number 9, there are no petitions. We move on to number 10, general reports. General reports and minutes are presented in relation to the following matters. So we first of all have the General Manager's operational report. Did you wish to speak to that at all, General Manager?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And just a couple of highlights. Just wanted to reflect on the efforts and work which are covered a little bit later in our agenda around progressing the Jobs Hub, Huon Valley Jobs Hub, the work with the team and engaging right across the community to pull all that information together and present it tonight for consideration. And also the important work around sharing and celebrating through our annual report, which also is a draft with us today. So,
thank you. A lot of effort in the annual report every year. We'll have an opportunity to ask questions as well after we go through the reports. Thank you. So the next report is my report, my activities report. I normally just take a brief selection from that. I attended the I officially opened, should I say, art box for the Writers' Festival, Dr. LJ Owen, who many people I'm sure are familiar with, and also attended the Aboriginal basket weaving workshop run by CTAC, which was over every Sunday for 4 weeks. Attended various annual general meetings, a very important event around the Huon Valley for community halls and community groups, and the inaugural Huon Valley Tourism Network AGM, and congratulations to all incoming members and thank you to all outgoing members, that's committee members, for their hard work and commitment to the community. Attended the School Grade 6 Mini Action Day involving schools throughout the Huon Valley, where students worked together and selected topics that were really important to them, such as bullying and harassment, cyber online bullying, racism, gender and sexual equality, and understanding and respecting the related law to their concerned areas. And they were very active and clearly had done a lot of research. Many mature grade 6 students who really worked respectfully with each other across all of the different schools, which was really lovely to see. It's very powerful experience when students are actually leading the conversation, not adults, and explaining what is acceptable behaviour and what does it look like feel like and sound like, and what is it to be kind. So it was really, really lovely, and I congratulate every one of them and their teachers and their parents that supported them as well. We have the Human Resources Quarterly Report as well, and then we have the Huon Valley Emergency Management Committee minutes from the 27th of September. I've made some notes as the chair, but I do have Councillor O'May that attends that meeting as well. Are you happy for me just to go through what was covered? Yeah?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
All right, lovely, thank you. So the Huon Valley Emergency Management Committee, they looked at the bushfire seasonal outlook. Unfortunately, our meeting wasn't quite timed, I suppose, with the official outlook. But what we did learn was that we will have some frequent rain throughout the summer period, and they call this a pretty normal bushfire period as well. But in November is when they release their official outlook for the bushfire season. We had a climate outlook overview. Spring burning program was discussed by the stakeholders that attend that meeting. Fire permit period was discussed. HVC bushfire social media campaign, which I outlined at the beginning of this meeting through announcements. Grab and go bags, it was an idea from our neighbours in the Kingborough Council, and they were working with other stakeholders as emergency bags that they can give out and people can just grab and go and have the most essential things in them. A nice little reminder. The SES gave us an update. We got an update on the Ctc Tv Project because we have CCTV cameras in Huonville and they are working effectively. And they are very clear. The clarity is amazing on them. We've got to have a look, and the police have been able to use them already. So it's a lovely partnership, really good funding, and we can build upon it easily, which is really great. So more cameras can be acquired, and they will just meet working with the system. So it's brilliant. Members' reports, and also Councillor May put up a suggestion that was supported by unanimously, and that was to invite Sustainable Timbers Tasmania representative onto the committee. Councillor May identified a gap at the table of stakeholder information, and so that's really fantastic. They're going to be invited onto the committee, and should they accept, then the terms of reference is going to be updated as well at the same time. And then at the conclusion, a scenario exercise was carried out by all of those stakeholders that were in attendance, and that was in relation to evacuating a 200-metre radius from the Huonville CBD, thinking that there was an explosion down at one of the service stations. So it was a task that we all undertook as a bit of a scenario exercise to see what we would need to consider, which was challenging, but it was great to work together as a group in that matter. Do I have any councillors who wish to table their activities tonight?
Through you, Mayor, I'd just like to mention that I've attended most of the workshops during the month, and I met with the Director of Infrastructure, Lachlan Krantz, who on the 15th of October drove me down to meet a resident who had been complaining about his condition of his road, as we've had many complaints over the last few months. And Lachlan was kind enough to take us for a look at the roads and explain what he proposed to do. And he also took me on a tour with a few other roads afterwards, and that was great information to find out how he's going to work to bring those roads back to a manageable state. And I would like to thank you very much for your diligence, Lachlan. Thank you. Thank you,
Councillor Clark, and shortly I'll be asking Lachlan to actually elaborate on that. Yep, thank you. Councillor May, you have some activities or questions? I'm just calling for activities at this moment.
My activities?
Yeah, your activities, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to announce that I also, along with Councillor Clark, attended most of the workshops, and I also attended the Glen Huon and Judbury Hall committees, and I would like to take at this point my liberty to congratulate the volunteers in these holes. The community would not run without volunteers. Those guys really need a medal. They put in, day out, and it's amazing the amount of work that they do. Secondly, I would like to say that the whole committee at Judbury and Glen Huan have done amazing jobs with getting the holes up and running to be able to not only function, but to be able to create an income stream which has enabled them to be able to contribute to the upkeep and the maintenance and the betterment of these public facilities. I also would like to say congratulations to our Director, Lachlan Crans, because I have also, along with Councillor Clark, been in deliberations with him in regards to our roads, as I have tabled in the last council meeting. And I believe he is doing a great job in his plans and his commitment to be able to upgrade our roads for the future and the safety of our general public. We've had a very wet year and it's been very difficult for the crews to be able to keep up the maintenance because of the weather conditions we've had. They've been inclement. And no sooner have the roads been graded, but we're having another weather event and they have subsequently gone into disrepair. And I would like to plead with the public for their patience. I know it's very frustrating as I live on a gravel road myself, that our director is doing an amazing job and he's only just come into this position and in my view he is really going to go places. So congratulations, Director.
Thank you very much.
And that's all I've got to say. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor May. Any other tabling of activities tonight? Thank you. Yes, Councillor Doyle. Thank you.
Yes, well, I only have some up to the 10th because after that I had knee surgery. But in saying that, I did have lots of visits to me concerning council issues because I said if you want to see me, you'll have to come to me, which they did. But I also did do a couple of the hall committees. I usually like to do them all, but couldn't this year. The Craddock one's another one that I think do a marvellous job. They've got a great facility there. And I just like to say well done to all of them. And to the Dover one that's taken over there, they've got their food pantry there as well. And a soccer team at the Oval, and they're doing a really good job. They're young and they're vibrant and they're having a go, so well done to Dover.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell, do you have any activities that you would like to table?
Not this month, thanks, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. No one else?
That's fine.
Okay, all right. Are there any questions as a result of those reports tonight? No? All right. Oh, yes, you do, yes. Yes, Councillor Gibson, thank you.
Interestingly, I had a question through you, Mayor, to the Director of Finance, along the same lines as Pat Singh around the financial management strategy and wondering whether we could organise councillor workshops in the early process so that councillors are engaged with the process all the way through.
Yes, thank you.
Through you, Mayor, yes, I'm sure that we can accommodate that, no problem.
That'd be good. I had a second question which was around the SES and the likelihood of increased grass fuel because of the high spring rains and whether we should be being on the front foot in terms of management of extra grass growth. I'm noticing it all the way around my place.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so what I might do is just through the General Manager is just go to the Acting Director of Planning and Environment and Planning and Lachlan, if you wish to take this on notice, that question on notice and come back because probably realise that you might not have that plan in front of you about managing the verges, etc., roadside grasses, etc. Thank you.
I will need to take that one on notice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your question. Is there any other questions regarding the reports? Councillor Campbell, do you have any question regarding the general reports?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. I would like to use this opportunity through the General Manager to the Director of Infrastructure just to talk about, because there's been a lot of attention around the roads as per the discussion here tonight. And I've asked the Director of Infrastructure just to sort of elaborate a little bit on the zoning plan that is being developed in the time that Lachlan has been here, but also just in general about the approach with roads, etc., and communication. So over to you, please. Thank you.
Sure, thanks. And through you, Mayor. And thanks, councillors, for just the ongoing support. So before I go, just to give you some background on resident requests, the program that we're following, what we're doing, and then ultimately what will be coming through to report to councillors to better inform how we continue to main roads and to ultimately bring them up to a more consistent service level that the community expects, we all expect. I just first wanted to give a shout out to my team. We have 2 grader crews and then and it's unsealed roads that are the majority of the focus at the moment. They have a habit of washing away in wet weather. I'm not blaming wet weather because it's actually the underlying road conditions. Then subject to heavy traffic, put wet weather on top of that and they do wash away. But the guys have really done an amazing job. They've spent the better part of the last month working in the rain. And there's been a culture shift really to stick to a program and resist the urge that historically council has sent graders up and down the highway and spent a lot of time in transit and not a lot of time doing work. So sticking to that program has been a cultural shift that they've needed to make, and they've done it really well. And it is paying dividends when you see how those roads are holding up and where the public requests are coming from. So to go into that and the background on those, so our long-term average is around 30 actionable customer requests per week. I say actionable because they lead to it's something we can do something about, as opposed to a comment, do a better job, etc. So 30 actionable customer requests per week. These are highly seasonable. So in winter, it's no surprise they'd be potholes and drainage. In summer, it swings to dust and roadside vegetation. So we never get a break from dirt roads. They give it to us all year round, just different shades of problem. The last 2 months has definitely seen an increase. We've all seen in issues coming reported in from the community. So this peaked just this Monday. 27 requests from the public were received. They're on similar roads. We'll have road of the week, and I referred to before, our roads go to pieces very quickly around here, and it's because of those underlying conditions. We can't just blame the weather. You can't just maintenance grade roads forever, and many of our roads have been constructed a very long time ago. Many of them were logging access tracks. They're now public roads. There hasn't been investment to bring them up really to public road standard. You can't continue just to maintenance grade those. They're down to their base. They need resheeting to be brought in, new material to be brought in over the top and constructed properly. It's actually a similar story on many of our sealed roads as well, but I'll focus on unsealed for this point in time. And look, the other part is just heavy vehicles and just utilisation generally. Anecdotally, there's a lot more traffic down here, and there's many roads as well where just bigger, heavier transport is going through. Dirt roads and wet weather do not hold up to heavy vehicles. And look, basically, there's no way, potholes, corrugations are inevitable. No one can deny physics. You cannot compress water. If you get water into a hole, if that's on an unsealed road or under pavement on a sealed road, that water cannot compress. You put a heavy object on it, and what compresses and breaks is the structure around it, which is the dirt road, is the tarmac. That's why we get potholes. No one's come up with a way to resolve that yet. All we can do, and what our plan is to address, is to improve or increase the interval levels between having to go back and maintain those. So reduce the rate at which potholes and corrugations can occur. And that is possible, but it's a challenge, and it takes investment, and it takes time. And we have 520 kilometres of dirt roads to get around, and 2 grader crews, and then another crew that is unloved but really do a necessary intermediate job, which is potholing. And one of the frequent requests we get is, you're wasting your time chucking gravel in holes, and we absolutely are. Is the fact of the matter. We've done it forever, and it's a band-aid fix. Potholing has only ever been designed to be a temporary solution, and temporary, I mean, in the best case, you might get a month out of it before you then come in with a more significant treatment. We've relied on it forever, and in the Huon Valley, and at the moment, we've done major roads that needed it, and I only do it, we're limiting how much we do on it because it's all money that we could better put elsewhere. But we've got roads where we've put that gravel in on one day and it's out the next day. Again, because physics just rejects those rocks because there's water in there. So we're chasing our tail. The public see that, but we're doing what we can and trying to get a grader there as quickly as we can after that potholing stuff is done. So our current hotspots, I mean, there's issues across the whole network because it is just that underlying condition, and the rain is falling everywhere. But the current hotspots really are local roads in Franklin, Judbury and Craddock. And then there's also major roads, Narrows Road in Strathblane, Cockle Creek Road, and then the final section of Lonavale Road, which heads down to the campground. They're all major trafficked roads. They are roads that need significant ongoing investment, and they correspond to roads that are heavily trafficked and have been constructed in ways that really aren't up to that scratch. So we're trying different things, but also, with respect to the crews that have been doing it for a very long time, they have been trying and living within their means for a very long time as well. Yeah. So, we're doing our best. The point is, and I've mentioned those, we've got issues at the absolute extreme ends of our network, and getting them around to those different places is an ongoing challenge. The shout out, I guess, as well, is that the roads that we'd completed, in particular between June and September, before the really heavy rain, just really persistent rain set in, which has affected how we can deliver, because you actually are limited in, you don't want to open up a road with a grader unless you absolutely need to when it's pouring with rain. It's inefficient, and it can actually lead to safety, like short-term safety issues on that road. So that has affected us, only marginally, because the guys have managed to work through it. But the roads that we'd done, largely through Cygnet and down to all the way down through to Eggs and Bacon Bay, and then major resheeting work on Pelverida Road, North Huon Road, which we did recently. There's a variety of others we did. They're holding up very well. Cygnet Coast Road's another one. So there's roads in there that are ones that are heavily trafficked. They're copying all the stuff I'm talking about. They're getting the same weather, but they're holding up great. So, which is evidence, and it's evidenced by the community aren't complaining about those yet. They will, because potholes are inevitable. But if those roads can persist, and it's what I talk about, that durability and improving extending the maintenance interval, if we can get those through, the aim is to have conditioned them so that they'll get through winter and be in a good state. Now, I don't want to be back on Cygnet Coast Road if I can avoid it until after the summer period, so that we can let it get worn down further by tourists and ourselves travelling around more, and then fix it up again at the end of that, because we are coming around in a loop. So that's some background on just what we're doing, where we're out, and where the hotspots are. And I get it. I talk to the public. My team talk to the public. Councillors talk to the public every day. Councillors do a great job of advocating for all of the various areas. Sue, the work's been done on that road in Franklin, or both roads actually that we looked at. Actually, all three. They're all done now. So in the space of a week. So, and not because you just came out, just because they were actually programmed, and there's a whole bunch of other roads around them that have also been done. So, and we got there when we needed to, according to the level of priority that they'd been afforded. So that plan at the moment is an ongoing state. We've broken the network into 7 zones. There's no magic to the 7 zones. It's literally just there's a township and a relatively similar volume of roads within each of those zones, so that we can distribute our work. So we're in an area we can work efficiently by just clustering volume, reduce our traffic time, our transit time, and just get maximum value out of the materials that we're doing when we're there. We've changed our methods. We're focusing much more on drainage than has ever happened before. That definitely, that's going to be one game changer here. We need to do it. The last couple of weeks, we've backed off on it because you can't really push out a table drain when it's full of water. And we've just been focusing on those roads, just trying to clean the surface up where they're under duress from the weather. But under normal circumstances, real focus on drainage and deep ripping out potholes, which is all about that durability. And we're also trialling things like changing the operating hours for the team so they can work more efficiently when they're right down at the end of Cockle Creek, etc. We've also re-established the resheeting program. It's been a long, long while since roads received a proper end-to-end resheet, which is between 50 and 100 mil of new topping gravel. Once you do that, you've then got some material to then next year and the following years to maintenance grade. So when you go through and rip them up and then regrade over the top, you've actually got some material to work with. Other than if we just deep ripped many of them, we'd just be sucking clay back up to the top and getting slippery roads. So we've done a whole bunch of stuff, and that's just a taster. And a key across all that is an emphasis on data collection, and again, a culture shift for the teams that are out there, and they're doing an amazing job in doing that, in giving us more data than we've had before, and really understanding and sharing the urgency to collect that information. And the urgency is so that we can bring that back in. We've now got 3 months, 4 months of quality data. There's historic data as well, but it's a little bit ropey. But 4 months of quality data that reflects proper delivery methods and under different weather conditions and across a broad swathe of our network. I'd love to have more data. I'd always love more data. I kind of live in data, but we have enough to make a good evidence-based conversation with councillors that they haven't had before, and that will result in a report to council which would look at things like the delivery cost per kilometre, just literally how many kilometres we have been able to get through, by the road classifications, and actually track that against the allocations that we've got for those road networks to see how we're tracking. We've got a KPI that's measurable. We can look at the methods we've been testing, the learnings from those, what efficiency opportunities and what that would mean, what we'd need to do to free that up, training and safety opportunities that the team are identifying and reporting back in. And then ultimately we can look at, and we'll be bringing forward to council, different service level options and having those costed, so that we can have a proper conversation about what does it mean to upgrade a road. There's many roads around here that the community, everyone wants a sealed road, but a sealed road is not without maintenance. No. But perhaps there are some roads where it actually makes sense to seal them at this point in time, and others that just need some reconstruction, and others where we can change our level of priority. So that's where we're going in hearing the community, being more planned and coordinated in our response, but ultimately turning it into data and bringing that back to councillors to make an evidence-based decision, which will be happening before Christmas, and ultimately part of our next year's budgetary process. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but it's worth some chat.
Do not apologise. No. That is probably the most transparent, if you want to use that word, insight into what your teams are doing, and the leadership in that area to actually undertake the changes that are required. And certainly I feel like the workshop that we would normally get, which is that you've now given that workshop in a filmed form for anybody that is interested, that the councillors can refer to and say, please watch the council meeting in October if you want to know in-depth information about how our roads are being managed from this point forward. And as we get to those milestones of changes, we can then ask you for an update again at a council meeting and give you the opportunity to talk about that. Yep.
Through you, Mayor. Sorry, I should have also mentioned that it's not internal facing. I've tried to be, well, I'm just being transparent with what we're doing here in a public forum, but another part of all this is it's still operational and it's still a plan in development, but we've gone from sort of knowing where we're going 1, 2, 3 days out, and we now have a plan that's a detailed plan of around 5 weeks and a pretty good plan of around 3 months. So we know where we're going to be up to and beyond Christmas at this point in time. We really know where we're going to be for the next month. And that's a huge shift for us. And we're at the point where we're exploring what the best opportunities are to share that with the community. So to make it public, it needs to be on a website. There's self-interest for me. I don't want my team answering endless phone calls saying when's the grader going to be there and then not being able to confidently answer it. We want to answer that. We're just not yet in a position to be able to do it. And when we are, and it will be a short time thing, to be able to put that on a website and say to people, go check it out. And we're pretty damn confident that you'll see us when we say on the website, which I think it'll be an efficiency game changer for my team. But it's what the community deserves, really.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lockie. I have either a question or comment from Councillor Doyle and then Councillor Gibson. Yes.
All I've got to say is that, Lockie, I think everyone appreciates the fact that we can't be reactive, we have to be proactive. And I think that the whole state government, the whole of Tasmanian government could have a good look at that and be more proactive instead of reactive. So thanks, Lockie.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson?
Yes, well, I'd like to thank Lockie for all his work, and the Cygnet Coast Road, as he mentioned, is holding up incredibly well under as we know, a lot of rain and traffic. I think we do have a short-term communication problem. I'm getting a lot of calls, and so are all the other councillors. Yeah. And I'm pleased to hear that you're heading towards being able to, direct people to the website. I was wondering if we could do something in the short term. There's people who are saying that they're not getting callbacks and those sorts of things, and it makes it difficult. I was wondering if there's some way of getting extra support for that department, just in the short term, to help fielding calls, getting back to people, and just saying, look, we're working on it. We've got a new rollout. All of the things you've just said, essentially.
Just through the General Manager to the Director of Infrastructure. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Gibson. Totally agree. And it's not something that it's not good enough for public to feel like they're not being heard. I'm actually a day late in getting some communications to you as councillors so that you can adequately respond to this, and that will include just what the current plan as it sits looks like, so you can actually confidently answer it. I'm also looking at it with my team. The emphasis, I think, has been more around we get a request and we put it on a list and we go deal with it, and then which may be a variable amount of time, or will be a variable amount of time. So it's not necessarily that they're not being heard. Some will slip through the cracks, but it's the focus needs to change to say it's not good enough just to have it on a list and it'll get done. The community wants to just know and just to be heard.
Yeah.
And that is with the volume that we get, and many of them are a call about a thing, because I deal with multiple a day. It's a single thing, and then it's a long conversation about a whole range of really valid stuff.
Yeah.
We're working through and don't yet have an answer on how to do it better, but I totally recognise that we need to do it better.
Thanks, Lockie.
Thank you very much. Councillor Campbell, do you have any questions?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, we're fine to move on. All right, thank you very much, and thanks once again to Lachlan for taking the time to explain to us, well, actually, we were aware, but to the community, really. Thank you. So do I have a councillor to move a motion that the general reports and minutes for the period 1 to 30 September 2021 be received and noted? That's Councillor May and moved, and Councillor Gibson seconded. Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Are you for that motion, Councillor Campbell?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to councillor workshops, item 11. I'll just summarise those. On the 28th of September, Deputy Mayor Sally Doyle and staff member Amanda Blakely, Environment Manager, visited a couple of sites. One was a study tour on waste at Barwicks in Bridgewater, and then Barwicks Just Waste in Oatlands and Dulverton Waste Management in Devonport. And they shared their experiences both in information sharing but also in a collage of photos and some facts for us, which covered composting, processing and tyre operations work, along with learnings that were shared by the representatives of the organisations visited, and some very important network connections took place, which we will continue to use, access those relationships across Tasmania. Then on the same date, as part of that workshop on the 28th of September, there was a regional Huan Regional Care update, and Huan Elder Care Limited Board Chair Mr Robert Dick and CEO Mr Barry Lang provided a presentation on the delivery of rural health beds in the Huon Valley and their future challenges. We're grateful for their attendance. On the 6th of October, there were 2 items that were discussed at that workshop: Circular Economy Huon Transport Action Plan. We have Dr Liz Smith here today, who also came to present with her fellow members, and they provided a presentation and led a discussion around a Huon Valley transport plan, and an invitation was extended for councillors to and staff to work with them on that particular plan. And also looking at a couple of models interstate, for example, that have transport plans in place. Draft annual report. So the draft report was presented to the councillors. It was reviewed, discussed, and feedback was sought from the officers to the councillors prior to it being presented at tonight's meeting. So every councillor had an opportunity to provide some feedback regarding that. That concludes item 11. We now move on to item 12, which is councillor questions. I don't have any questions taken on notice, but I have a question here without notice from Councillor Prince that I would like to read out. He does supply a photo as well, which is a picture of some cars that are banked up against each other outside the Southbridge Waste Station. And the question reads, is there anything the Huon Valley Council can do to prevent this build-up of traffic at the Huonville Waste Transfer Station from happening to help reduce the chance of another accident occurring here? And our response is a media release was issued on the 6th of August advising that Council had received funding of $700,000 and has until December 2022 to complete the works. Infrastructure Services have received preliminary engineering design and costing, so that's a step that's been done. And subject to contractor availability, which we know is a pressure point in Tasmania, it is Council's intention to have the black spot upgrade works completed prior to the 30th of June of 2022. And that's completed. That's the intention. To address morning queuing outside Southbridge prior to the upgrade, Council will use a variety of Facebook messages and on-site notice boards advising drivers of the opening times and directing them not to queue on the highway shoulder. So I suppose you could say it's a bit of an education around that. It is illegal to stop on a highway in this manner, and local police could be requested to enforce, and we have seen a really good police presence around the valley in the last few months. And so if it does look like a problem, we absolutely can access the police to observe and monitor that, to enforce the road rules by driving past between 9:40am and 10am, which seems to be the problem time. And there is a media release attached to that as well. So, yes.
On this particular problem, I drive past there every Saturday and most Sundays. Now, there is always probably half a dozen cars at the most that are queued from the gate out onto the road. There's always council staff there, normally 20, 25 minutes early. I honestly don't see why we can't simply open the entry gate and let them queue to the start of the pay gate. They wouldn't be doing anything to anyone, and it would save this problem totally.
Can we take that on notice? Is that okay to take that one on notice? The only reason being is obviously you need to consult with the staff and will the clients need to be looked after inside as soon as they rock up? Will they be patient? All that sort of stuff. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah. Is that all right?
From the gate out onto the road, they might as well be lined up for the bay door, round the big arch to the road. There'd be no one on the road.
Yeah, it's a sensible suggestion. There definitely are staff there prior to opening, usually half an hour before. They are occupied doing work, so I will take it on notice. Talk to the relevant group and consider that. Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. Councillor O'May, you have a question?
Yes, in regards to Councillor Newell's comments there, very well thought out, right on the mark. But I would also like to add a rider. As the gates to the waste site are parallel with the road, there would be probably an opportunity, I believe, if we looked into it, to fence the side of the part that you're talking about of the entry so that the gates could still remain closed so that staff didn't have to deal with people pushing and shoving or walking around the site while they're trying to prepare the refuse site for the day's events. And then put the gates at the end of that driveway where you're suggesting they go to, so that they are queued off the road. It's just a smaller matter of fencing along where you're talking about, the entry point. So if
parallel though.
Sorry?
The exit point's parallel, the entry point is vertical to it.
The director would like to respond at that point.
Again, you're raising something that arguably we should have done a long time ago, prior to getting the funding for the black spot program. The design solution there is to move the entrance to the other gate, so further towards Geeveston, away from the corner. So that provides for a further 90 metres of internal queuing. Given we're talking about having that done by upcoming June, I'd be reluctant to invest more in the existing gate structure, which is why we were thinking about education, etc., and potentially just opening it up. But by all means, we can look at what the cost of that would be, and particularly if there's any likelihood of extending the time frame to deliver the proper solution, we would do that.
Thanks very much. You're one step ahead of me, as usual.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, Councillor Campbell, do you have any question without notice?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Sorry?
I was just asking Councillor Campbell a question.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Councillor Gibson.
Yeah, I do have one question without notice, Mayor. With regard to the stat deck to the Director of Local Government, is that when it comes from the Mayor, is that from all councillors or is it just an individual?
Just the Mayor.
Just the Mayor.
Just the Mayor, thank you.
Mayor.
You have another question? This is
Yes, Mayor.
question
Yeah,
without notice?
absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
On top of Councillor Prinz's This is a separate one.
Oh, you have a question, right? Yes.
Without notice, yeah.
Yes, certainly.
My question is, through you, Mayor, to this council. I've received some negative comments from members of the public in regards to a decision we made at my decision in the last council meeting in regards to supporting Councillor Gibson's motion against the proposal at Ida Bay, and I would just like to explain my reasons.
Oh, sorry, this is a question. You must have a question.
Yeah, well, the question is, Mayor, is can this council, the state government would be recommending a project like this and name it as a matter of state significance. I believe this is a matter of community significance, that we, as this council, send a delegation to this proposal to acknowledge our support to be able to further this proposal. And the reason that I was going about the way I was, Mayor, is because I was trying to explain myself why I believe I'm asking the question. And that is, as I've stated before, I very much support our volunteers. We have volunteers that have worked at this site, and I very much support them, and that was the primary reason why I chose to support Councillor Gibson's motion.
Okay.
None other than that. So I believe that trying to be a councillor, Mayor, is a paradoxity in itself, having to wear two hats. So I'm trying to say that I am very much in support of this proposal, but not in the current form that it was in.
All right, I can respond.
I very much would like to ask the question simply, can we send a special delegation of people to further this proposal, as I believe, being involved in government for a long time, to be able to get state government, federal government and parks all on board.
I can respond.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So you may have missed a communication that I had sent out to councillors to provide them with an update and reasons why we can't send a delegation, and I'll explain that. So we did say to Dark Lab, what can we do to assist without confusing ourselves as a planning authority and matters of a planning authority. You just said about the two hats. We, at the end of the day, we will always be a planning authority. So we need to ensure that we never cross the line whereby the public would expect us to make a decision without any bias and based on the planning scheme. What we have done is the actions that I've taken. We have offered our planning officers for advice. We've offered our economic staff for advice around data, around research for the project to assist, and because we have that tourism arm in the economic development area. We have also written to the relevant ministers and Senator Dunningham as well, because he was involved right at the very beginning in 2019 to secure the funds. It is our desire that the ministers and the senator and the relevant departments, that might be parks, who also look after Crown, and also the tourism, that was the tourism minister as well, that they do their utmost to help Dark Lab secure appropriate land, Geeveston South, because the project must be in Geeveston to south because of its intention was through the 2019 bushfires. So we have done all those things, and we've had a response of an acknowledgement that correspondence has been received. what will happen, of course, is that when Dark Lab do secure a location, that DA will have to come back to council as a development application. We will once again have our hats on as a planning authority. So it is, as you said, we're balancing the two hats, and we just have had to be mindful of that. And particularly in that very early stage, when there was a lot of, in that first 14 days, when there was a lot of concern and a lot of, we want to make sure we secure this for our area. We had to be extra cautious during that time because the application could have gone to appeal, and conversations that we might have had with people, you just have to be very careful when it goes into a possible appeal process. And that's why we offered those things, and then Dark Lab came back and said, look, if you could provide us with a letter of support to emphasise how important the project is and about getting those ministers and those departments, relative departments, to work with Dark Lab to secure a site. So that has been done.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Mayor. All I can say is we should be camped outside their doors, so it's a great proposal.
Sorry.
We were told to approve it, Mark. It went through all the appropriate things and we knocked it back.
Yeah.
2 years would be minimum before it's built.
So that is a decision that was made last month, and we debated it last month, and let's just let it lie here. Thank you. Ta, thank you. All right. Okay, so there are, number 13, there are no notices of motion, and we move into our first report for the evening. We have the draft 2020-2021 annual report, agenda number 15.026/21. I refer councillors, please, to the recommendations of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor O'May. Councillor Doyle, do you have any opening remarks?
No. No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Do we have someone to speak for the motion? Yes, thank you, Councillor Gibson.
Yeah, I'd like to speak for the motion. I think it's a very clear report and well put together. It was a pleasure to read.
All right, lovely, thank you very much. Is there anybody to speak against the motion? All right. Are there any questions regarding the annual report? No. I just have a couple of notes then before we go into putting the motion. So I note numbers 9 and 10 of the report, of the attachment. Of the report, my apologies. So community engagement will be undertaken by a public notice in the Mercury newspaper calling for submissions for a 2-week period. This process will be completed in advance of the annual general meeting. The report will be published on the Council's website. Members of the public will be invited to make submissions on the report for discussion at the annual general meeting. Submissions can be lodged online via the website, via email and at the Customer Service Centre. And noted in number 14, in addition, the financial statements and the audit opinion will be included once received from the Auditor General, expected towards the end of October, early November, prior to the release for public comment. Accordingly, some financial figures are subject to audit confirmation. Councillor Doyle, do you have any closing comments?
Comment just, Mayor, through you, is that I'd like to probably carry that page with me, a couple of them, to be able to explain to people exactly what their rates do when they don't think that, and I know, well, we're all ratepayers. We all want the best for our rates, but when you look at that page and see what we do have, we're pretty lucky to live where we do.
It's very broad.
Yep.
So I'll put the motion then. Those in favour, please raise your hand. And Councillor Campbell, are you for that motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
That's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to the Huon Valley Jobs Hub, agenda number 15.027/21. I refer councillors to the recommendations of this report. And just a refresher, the topic of Jobs Hub funding formed part of a workshop on the 8th of September 2021, where obviously councillors were invited to attend. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Clark. A seconder is Councillor O'May. Councillor Clark, do you have any opening remarks?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I'd just like to say that this is a great initiative that has been secured. I was a bit concerned about it at the start, that it might impact on some of the local service providers, but it obviously is not in competition with those, and it requires partnerships and collaboration, which is great. Yep. And also, I think it needs to be pointed out that the employees, the people that will be employed through that initiative, will actually be under the authority of the governance structure. They will not be council's employees. So we need to make that clear to the public, I think. Yes. Thank you.
Precise, thank you.
Yeah.
So, are there any questions, first of all? Yes, Councillor Gibson.
I did have a couple of questions through you, Mayor. Will the strategic and implementation plan come back to council was one question. And due to the strong emphasis on local, will the hub tap into the skills we have in the valley? Was the other question I had.
I'll go through to, is it the Director of Community Services would respond, or all right? Sorry, yes, Councillor, sorry, Matt, thank you.
So through you, Mayor, the strategy would be developed through the authority. They'd certainly be presenting it to the council, but it wouldn't necessarily be a council-approved document. The other question was skills in the valley, and that's certainly yes.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much for that. Sorry, Matt, for the confusion. Apologies. All right, are there any other questions from councillors? Is there somebody else that would like to speak to the motion? Yes, yep. Councillor Gibson.
Well, I think it's a fantastic opportunity, and $1.6 million is for 3 years is a great budget. I think the structure that's been chosen is really excellent because, as Councillor Clark has pointed out, it gives that independence and brings in the other service providers into the hub.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak against the motion? Okay. Speaking for the motion, Councillor Doyle.
Through you, Mayor, I've had a few of the service providers contact me and tell me that they're thrilled. They think this is terrific.
Yep.
So, yeah, that makes you feel better.
Okay. Councillor O'May.
Yes, Mayor, I'd also like to congratulate this process. It's wonderful to, as Councillor Gibson said, have outside influences there, and it's just another avenue in the community that people can go and give a level of hope and potential employment. So ticks all the boxes for me.
All right, thank you very much. All right, if there are no questions and no one against the motion, then it has been a long journey. This has been since 2019. Yeah. And I had a whole lot of notes here, but pretty well my notes are equal to what's in the report as well. So covered by the council staff who have been very dedicated, a number of them, to bring this to the Valley. So we're very happy that the state government identified that this is a good model and it needs to be right around Tasmania, which it is going to be. Right. So I will put the motion. All those in... Oh, sorry, did you have any my apologies, Councillor Clark. Any closing remarks?
Thank you, Mayor. No.
All right, thank you. I'll put the motion then. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Campbell, are you for that motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
All right, lovely. That's all councillors present and the motion is carried. Thank you. The next report is the Geeston Town Hall, agenda number 15.028/21. I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report, please. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? That's Councillor Doyle and seconded by Councillor Gibson. Thank you. Councillor Doyle, do you have any opening remarks, please?
Through you, Mayor, just the fact that the quality of people that are listed there I think the town hall is in good hands. And and I suppose if we're going to support local, go there to shop. But as far as the authority goes, yeah, they're very good people on that list.
All right, lovely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any questions regarding this report, please, councillors? No. All right. As anybody else would like to speak for the motion? Yes, Councillor Gibson.
It seems like it's a very good process, nice and transparent, and a good outcome.
Yep, good. Thank you. Yes, this was a community engagement level collaborate, if people can recall. So the desires of the community that was identified through that process have been fulfilled one by one. Thank you. Are there any councillors to speak against the motion? No? All right. In that case, Councillor Doyle, do you have any closing remarks?
No, Mayor.
All right, lovely. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Campbell, how are you voting? For?
Yes.
For? All right, lovely. That's all councillors present and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to the financial report, agenda number 16.015/21. I refer councillors once again to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor O'May. A seconder, please. Councillor Clark, thank you. Councillor O'May, do you have any opening remarks, please?
No, thank you, Mayor. It ticks all the boxes for me.
All right, lovely. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions at all from councillors? This is an opportunity. No? All right. Are there any remarks for the motion? No. Anybody would like to speak against the motion? All right. All those in favour, could they please raise their hands? So I'll put the motion. Sorry, I should say that. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Councillor Campbell, are you for that motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
All right, that's all councillors present and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to the report review of fraud control and corruption prevention policy and procedure, agenda number 16.016/21. I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion, please? Councillor Gibson, thank you. And a seconder, please, Councillor O'May. Councillor Gibson, do you have any opening remarks, please?
Yes, I've read through it carefully and cross-checked it against a couple of other reports, and I think it's well written. Seems to be a good policy. I do have a question, but I can wait till that time there.
You could ask the question now if you like, because that will be the immediate next thing that I will do.
My question through you, Mayor, to the Director is that I understand that a fraud and corruption prevention plan is also to be developed, and maybe he could outline what will happen until that plan is activated.
I'm happy to answer that one, Mayor.
Thank you.
We have a set of current council-approved procedures which we're recommending they be rescinded, and the reason for that is because we're going to develop the underpinning fraud and corruption control plan. Now, we have actually written that already. So if this policy is approved tonight, we will be able to enact that plan straight away.
Thank you. Are there any other questions at this point in time? Councillor Campbell, do you have any questions at this point in time?
Just one question, thanks, Mayor.
Yes?
I'd like to ask you, to the relevant Director, I feel that we could possibly have the word potential. At the moment it's talking about, what happens when there is fraud, but I think I'd like to see the word potential put in so that it actually covers everything when it comes to fraud. So potential would be a word I'd like to include if possible.
So I'll, refer that question to the Director of Corporate Services, which is David. for him to consider whether he can respond now or whether he needs to come back to us. We'll find out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I might just refer councillors to page 3 of 5 in the attachment, which is the policy. And we have there a definition of fraud, and we do refer there to actual or potential already. So I'm just wondering if that might be sufficient for Councillor Campbell.
That's the definition, is it? Sorry?
That is correct.
That's
yep.
the definition, Councillor Campbell, so it's incorporated in the definition.
Yes, I'm happy with that. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director.
All right, thank you. I have a question for David, if I may, David. Just in relation to the fraud control and corruption prevention policy and procedure. So the procedure is the, so if I just refer to, I exchanged with you the Kingborough, for example, council's policy, not identical, policy, and because it covered the procedure as well, is what I understand. And we are separating out the policy from the procedure. And my question is that, are we separating out the policy from the procedure because the procedures often, things can change regularly, and therefore if a general manager is signing off on that, therefore it doesn't need to wait to go to a council meeting, which can be a risk if you're not changing your procedure immediately, whereas a policy, of course, has to be endorsed by the council. Is that correct? Is that the reason, one of the reasons why, or the reason why you would separate them?
It's one of the reasons. It certainly makes it easier to update the procedures, as you've outlined, but it's not actually the primary reason why we're separating. The major reason is that it's just a better governance procedure to separate policy from procedure. So now the Kingborough example that you provided to me is one of those examples, and there are others still out there where policy and procedure are still in the one document, but most of the ones that we referred to, and indeed the ICAC sample guide that you forwarded to me as well, is done on the basis of it being a policy only. So we feel that separating the two is the better way to go, and that's the primary reason, but it does have that added benefit that you've just described.
Thank you very much for explaining that to me. Do I have a councillor to speak for the motion? You'd like to speak for the motion, Councillor O'May?
Very much, Mayor. I think it's a very good proposal, and I'd like to congratulate Director Spinks on doing a very good job, as usual. And yeah, I'm all for it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anybody to speak against the motion? All right. Therefore, I will put the motion. All those councillors in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Campbell, are you for the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
That's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Right, so I now advise that the council is acting as the planning authority as at 7:57. Thank you very much. In accordance with the provisions of Part 2, Regulations 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures, Regulations 2015, the council will now act as a planning authority pursuant to the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993. We have the report is the planning application DA 2/2021 for 5 multiple dwelling units, including shared permaculture, common area and outbuilding at Kings Hill Road, Cygnet, CT 140611/6, agenda number 17.024/21. I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion, please? Yes, Councillor Clark. A seconder, please. Councillor Gibson, thank you. Councillor Clark, would you like to speak for the motion or to the motion? Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I just think it's a great development. I read right through the application and it looks excellent for the area. I just have a question though before, do I do that now or do I do that?
Yep, you can do that. Absolutely, you can have a question.
Thank you. I just, in accordance with the Council's Community Infrastructure Contribution Policy, there is an amount of $1,500 put on each unit for that, to put towards that community infrastructure, which I guess in the old days it used to be for public open space, I understand, which amounts to about $7,500 for that development. Where is that actually, that contribution going to be spent, and where, and is it separately for that area, or is it a bulk?
How is it managed?
How is that managed?
Yeah, like the account where all of those monies go into.
Yes.
How is that managed?
Yes.
Okay. Well, through to the relevant director. Thank you. Is that, Lockie, you've got to answer that, are you?
I can answer it.
All right, thank you.
It's actually one I'll partly take on notice unless one of the other directors wants to come back on it, because it's an area that I'm honestly still exploring exactly how we deliver those funds that we're taking for developments.
Oh. What it looks like Michael might be able to assist with that response.
Michael, do you want to talk to it? You can do.
You can if you like, yes.
Yes, it's that comes from a council policy, and it is for the contribution to the stormwater infrastructure, effectively, and it's for contributions based on the number of new services that you need to connect and utilise the service. So it is based on the number of units in this case.
So are you able to respond then, Michael? Otherwise we'll take it on notice. Those funds that are for that purpose, do they go to an infrastructure account for related to stormwater, or otherwise we can take that on notice? And
it wasn't stormwater, it was open space, wasn't it?
was it? Yeah, but
Open
did you
space.
say stormwater and...
There might be some confusion, that's all.
Sorry.
I can clarify on the question of the service. It's for the stormwater contribution. It's not public open space in this case.
All right. Sorry. Yeah? Yes.
That's a little bit confusing to me, because why doesn't it say for stormwater? Because it's for community infrastructure.
That's the title of the service that the policy comes from. So it is for contribution to community stormwater infrastructure. So separately there is another charge for where it applies for public open space. That is a separate charge for some types of development. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Are there any other questions? No. Anybody would like to speak for the motion? Yes, Councillor Gibson.
I think this is a fantastic development. I was really pleased to go through it in detail. It's got there's a lot of thought in it. There's some fantastic energy efficiency in it. It's really. I think it'll fit Signet to a T.
Thank you. Thank you. Would anybody like to speak against the motion? All right, so I will put the motion then. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Campbell, are you for the motion?
Very much for the motion, thanks, Mayor.
All right, lovely. So that's all councillors present and the motion is carried.
Sue have to...
Oh, sorry, Councillor Clark, did you have a closing remark? Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. No.
Process not followed there. I do apologise for not giving you that opportunity. And thank you, a diligent Deputy Mayor Doyle, for pointing that out. All right, so I now advise that the Council is no longer acting as a planning authority as at 8:03. 8:03. Thank you. We have a report here, Community and Management Committee Annual General Meeting Nominations 2021, agenda number 19.012/21. I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Doyle. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Newell, thank you. Councillor Doyle, do you have any opening remarks?
Just through you, Mayor, it amazes me that the amount of people that put their hand up every year to do these jobs. It is good to see some young ones though when being around. There has been some young people, which has been really good. So no, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions related to this report, please?
Sorry, is this the halls?
This is the halls, yeah.
It's all the halls.
I just wanted to have my name included in the Franklin Palais present because it was for some reason left off.
Oh, okay.
Very minor thing.
That's in the other part. Isn't it?
Oh, is that in the attachments?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yes.
All right, if we can make an amendment then, please, to, sorry, the Director of Community Services, did you hear that particular request?
Can I just clarify that, sorry, Mayor? Councillor Gibson, you're referring to that you're in attendance?
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you. Was I there?
Yeah.
Because I was there.
Yeah, you were there.
I know I was there, I just want to make sure I was written in that case. All right, very good. All right, so are there any questions, sorry, related to that report? Was there anybody that would like to speak for that motion?
No, it's good.
Yep. And is there anybody that would like to speak against the motion? All right, then I will put the motion. All those in... sorry, I will just slow down. Councillor Doyle, do you have any closing remarks?
No, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Then I will put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Clark, are you in favour of that motion?
Councillor.
Councillor Campbell, sorry, are you in? All right, lovely. Oh, got a little bit lost on that one. Thank you. We now move to the next report, appointment of Municipal Emergency Coordinator, agenda number 19.013/21. Once again, I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor O'May. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Doyle. Councillor O'May, do you have any opening remarks?
No, Mayor, other than the fact that it's great to see more participation, as you and I know, in this area of after coming through bushfires and floods a few years back, as much coordination and general overview of the areas from one specific person in contribution with all the other facilities we have is very much warranted, and I just think it's a great idea.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions from councillors regarding this report? Is there a councillor that wishes to speak for the report? Yes, Councillor Clark.
Through you, Mayor, I'd just like to say that I think it's a great appointment. Rebecca Bell is a very capable person, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody wishes to speak against the motion? And I concur with you, Councillor Clark. There's no one better that you would want by your side as Rebecca Bell, or indeed Beck Stevenson, and others that were very, very, very capable individuals to lead through the 2019 bushfires. And it's great to see Beck Bell's name here once again. Well deserved, and I feel very safe. If we're in that situation again, we are very, very safe indeed. So I will ask Councillor O'May if he wishes to have a closing remark.
Sorry, Mayor. Other than the fact of congratulations, Rebecca Bell, no, Mayor.
Thank you. So I will put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Clark, Councillor Campbell, are you in favour of that motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
That's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. So it's that time again where we bid farewell to our gallery, because we're about to go into a closed session. Thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to you attending next month, which is Wednesday the 24th of November, if you put that in your diary. We will continue, as people leave, we will continue to record the meeting of us going into a closed session. So thank you. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Tim.
All right.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Malcolm.
Thank you, Malcolm.
The recommendation is that the meeting now be closed to the public as at 8:09 p.m. pursuant to Regulation 15 of the Meeting Procedures Regulations, to discuss the following matters: confirmation of minutes and general reports of the